Welcome. Season 2 is finally out. Twilight has begun. Did that rhyme? Did that rhyme? Did that rhyme? Rhyme. No, last episode it's not in last episode, it was last season, I think. Japan still dominates Asia. There's some Chinese remnants that become Muslim because the people there are Muslim. And a lot of things. But firstly, what is the first thing that's going to happen in the Cold War? These three factions, the Intermarium, which eventually turns into, which slowly but surely, which becomes the, which becomes Mittel, which becomes the Reichspakt, as Germany regains dominance over Europe, as Germany slowly recovers from it being split. So by 1952, it basically looks like this. No, the real reason what we're talking is the Soviet Union. You'll see the Soviet Union started basically falling during the Second World War. It was able to establish a large foothold in Russia, but there wasn't any unified governance against it. Those events, and due to Soviet weakness, it left a bunch of states independent for according to the Soviet elite too long, and like a large chunk of them could be captured very easily, like Crimea, even the Kuban, as the Cossacks would eventually go out of style. And they would mainly struggle with the Circassians, which most likely would betray the Cossacks, conquer the Cossacks, and declare the territory as land of the Cossacks. The Soviet Union, which also participated in the Second World War, doesn't like this, but they would struggle here, so this ends up in a mess. The Mountain Republic and Georgia also join in for so-called peacekeeping purposes. But that's basically it. Eventually, the Treaty of Stavropol is signed, where Kalmykia joins the Mountain Republic. All of this becomes Circassian. And the Soviets are able to retake most of those territories. As basically for them, that was basically just a large military exercise, as they aren't as isolated as you think and not as backward as you think. Their technology is basically up to date due to ww2. While along with that, the committee invades the Central Committee invades all of these countries. This area isn't invaded due to its close relation with Japan, which is slowly becoming a third superpower. And the Soviets are marching in very easily, with the last remnants of the White Army suffering near Yakutsk. So eventually this area falls, but the last remnant of the White Army, the Republic of Magadan, does not surrender and survives. And eventually Soviet troops get starved and the Arctic gets too much for some, even though they're Soviet troops, and they are able to fight an offensive. While the Soviets aren't able to fully retake the territories of the old Russian Empire, they are able to take and unify it, or even unify Russia for that. Example, the Soviet Union is able to unite all of this, causing the formation of, with this, there are now two Russian governments, the so-called the Magadan Republic and Soviet Russia. Now this war makes Japan form into an makes the Japanic alliance into an actual bloc. This being, of course, the co-prosperity sphere. The Japanese co-prosperity sphere has established straight-up control over these areas in many ways, all the way down to Malaysia, but that's where they stop. They are less powerful than all the other groups, and these guys really need a protector. So they join the Entente, which is a larger hold in the Pacific. Hmm. So these are pretty cool hosts, and also Egypt is independent now. The members of the Reichspakt decide to invade this small territory due to due base members of the Bosnia and Hungary decide to both invade the Croatian states in order to fully rebuild those territories, with Bosnia become unified again. And same with Hungary. This territory is actually controlled by Italy, and they don't attack Italy. Slovenia decides to make becomes is united with becomes united with Hungary. After serious amounts of Czech protests, the Czechs are finally given independence. But it's not really independence, more like semi-autonomous thing. And the US basically stays neutral during this period. With no war at ww2 or even ww1, there won't really be civil rights or anything. And that's pretty self-explanatory, because, I mean, without the two world wars, there wouldn't be that cultural idea or even motivation for that. So US still stays Jim Crow for a way longer amount of time. For now, we're looking at Italy, which actually doesn't own the papacy. And the papacy doesn't really have a problem with giving Italy its territories. I mean, as the papacy didn't really govern, Italy would also start recognizing the papacy and actually would allow it to have some minor influence in its government. And we'll also consider that this map has all city-states as small blobs. Let's put that here. Now, there is one thing that's going in. The question of Eastern Europe, should they join? Specifically, and by Eastern Europe, I mean the Caucasus countries, Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, the Mountain Republic, and Circassia. Should they join either the Entente or this? Now, there are a lot of questions about this. While if you want an unified front against Russia, you should join the Mutual Europa. Orthodox Brotherhood also becomes a huge thing here. Also, so Armenia is definitely pro-Entente, and by pro-Entente I mean joins the Entente. The countries that are up in the air are like the are Circassia, Georgia, and even the Mountain Republic has basically these two are joined. We will represent these four swings, so countries that could realistically go for both. So there are a lot of countries that could realistically count in this category. But this includes Pontus, not Pontus, Egypt, Italy with its colonial possessions, Why? Why does the Soviet Union have to invade it again? This time it's not at the Caucasus. This time it's at the Central Asian countries. These cause this occupation. This war actually ends way more quickly than the Russian Civil War. So currently the Cold War is still in its forming stages. It's not really that cold. I mean, nuclear weapons aren't even developed or even tested. But finally, there's the first nuclear weapon gets developed in Germany. Germany gets one nuke. And that quickly Trump becomes 30. The technology spreads to Britain with 21. Same with France with 9 nukes. And by 1962, even Arabia has a single. Thanks for watching and please subscribe.